going to show you how to use the file that I've given you for this card if you're using Siser Leonardo. So you go up to File and you go to Import File and you choose whichever bit it is that you want to do at the particular time, the artwork, the PNG. And we're going to have to resize this because it won't import at the same size, so you do need to do that. I've not altered any of the settings. We've got Show Grid, but you can also have that version, which in some cases is a lot easier to see what you're actually cutting out. And so I'm just going to go to the next, and it's going to do its stuff. And here we can see the cut file that I'm ending up with. Now, because this is very, very wiggly around here, I would probably put the smoothing level up quite a bit. There we go, put that up. With this particular image, I'm going to use an offset on it as well. So that's done, and let's go to next. And my contour offset. Now this is difficult for me to judge because it's not in millimeters as far as I can tell, or any other measurement, it's just a number. And put it up to about there. Percentage wise, I think it's probably about right. And you can also click on the wireframe view so you know exactly what you're going to get. And it's always a good idea to have a good look at it. And if you want to zoom in, you can. And zoom in again, so you can get a closer look and see what you've got in there, what you've not got in there, and then you can click on finished. Alternatively, if we cancel this one, we can go to File, Import the file again. We can use a different kind of import option, and we can go for one that has the drawing tools. Now in this particular instance you may not need it, but in some instances you might. And this means that you can edit what is going to be contained in your cut and what isn't. So if you have a remove brush and include brush, if I want to make more of this blue, in other words, it's not going to have the holes in it, I need to do the include bit. And if, for example, I go to lasso like that, and I'm going to zoom in so we can really see what's going on. And if I come over here, for example, here's a good example. If I draw a lasso around this area here where I would normally have a hole, it then fills the hole in for me. But I want my contour on here. So now do my view, and this is giving me what I want. So I go to finished. Now I know that this is the wrong size. This is 12.7 centimeters and my card is only 10.5. So it's way too big. So I have to select it, come over here and put in my 10.5. Now as it happens with this particular design, I know the size, and sometimes you know it and sometimes you don't. But it's a good thing to get used to resizing because sometimes you'll do something and you'll forget to resize it. So always look at that sizing. And then we send our design and we want all the artwork, yep, and go to send. And this gives us our two options. Here is the one that we are going to print, so we send that to the printer. And if I click on this one here, we get the cutting properties. Now you can use the cutter settings if you want, so that's the speed and the pressure. Or you can use software settings. I tend to do it on the cutter. If you get used to changing it on the cutter or used to changing it in the program, don't swap between the two because then you'll forget. Just choose one method or the other, whichever you find easiest. And then we would just send that to cutter after we've got our print with the registration marks. Now when you put it in the cutting machine, you want to make sure that your blade is pretty close to there. Okay, it's got to be within these lines here. And from what I have found doing print and cuts myself, it doesn't like it if it's too far away. So as close as that little corner there as you can get, and then just let it do its thing. It recognizes the fact that it's a print and cut, and off it goes. So now we want the rest of the card, so we import the file, and I have it here. I also have one which is just called vellum. This is just a circle, a vellum circle, but I've actually got it in here. So this is our card front. We have a couple of circles here. Now these are for cutting out double-sided tape. If you have a wide double-sided tape, then you can cut those out. We have some holly leaves and some berries, and we have the circle which is for cutting in vellum. So what you would do is go for cut only, and then you click on next, and you go to apply, and there you have it. Now again, here it's imported at an incorrect size. I made it so that the only thing you have to do is alter this measurement because they're all lined up. And if we come in here and we put 10.5, we have it at the correct size, and now we can go to arrange and move to cut origin. There we go. So we send this design to the cutter, and we've got some options we can do. We can do all the artwork that's on the page, or we could have selected just a bit of it. Move each colour layer to the origin, which is very handy. If you're cutting different materials, you might as well do that, unless you put all your materials on the mat at the same time. Keep the relative positions of each layer. Use the current mat page location, which is similar, but the relative positions means that is relative to that and that is relative to that. Where it says keep relative positions of each layer, it's referring to each other. Using the current mat page location is basically what you see is what you get. So I would probably go for each colour layer to origin if I'm swapping different materials out. So go to send, and here we have our layers. So you just pick which layer it is that you want to cut first, and you can cut them in whatever order you want. I drew and coloured my little mouse and the wreath in Procreate. I do like to do some doodling, and he's rather cute, I thought it would be great to make him light up from behind. Now, because LED lights tend to be quite bright but a very sort of pinpoint light, I wanted to diffuse the light a bit more. So what I did was I put a piece of red vellum behind him, and I've glued that in place. Now, the size that you need to do your red vellum, if you're going to use any, is literally the same size as this. So this is my front card panel, and if you notice, it has a funny little cut here, and this cut is to accommodate the battery. We can actually put our mouse on here, so we can put it in place by gluing or double-sided tape, whatever it is that you want to use. Just make sure that you don't apply too much glue because you don't want it squidging out and ruining your card. And in case you're wondering, this is actually Eileen's tacky glue, I think it is, put into an old children's 3D paint container. These things are great because they have very fine nozzles, and you can apply your glue nice and accurately. You don't have to buy a special dispenser for it. Now I have a standard A5 piece of card folded in half for a card base, making A6, and this panel will eventually go onto the front of it like so. If you want to make your card base a bit bigger, you can. Alternatively, you can downsize the front panel if you want to, but if you do that, make sure not to downsize that hole, because that hole needs to be that size. Right, now for the lights. Everyone, I would think, has come across these, what they're called is rice lights, because they are about the size of a grain of rice. Fairly logical, I suppose. And these happen to be on a copper looking string. It's coated with something so that the lights don't short themselves out. But what you can do is you can cut off the number that you want, and for this one I want 4 lights because of the length of string that gives me. And I have this piece here, which normally would have the next light on it. You can cut this with a pair of scissors, it's really soft. You don't have to have special wire clippers or anything. So what you then do is you take a piece of foam, a scrap piece of foam, you put it on there, and you take a nail file, and you do this until you can see the tip of the wires change colour slightly, because you need to take the coating off. Only for about the last 3/4 of an inch. You don't want to take off too much. Now, I've got some little batteries. These are CR2016 batteries. The 2016 is the thickness, and these are nice and thin and go in cards really, really well. So one side of this is the positive, that's the smooth side, and the other side is the negative. And I need to find out which one is which. It's obviously not that way around, because otherwise those lights would be lit up. I now know that the wire I'm hanging onto on the top of here is my positive one. And in order to make it obvious which one's which for future reference, I'm just going to bend the tip. That just means I know that's my positive, and I don't have to test it again and work out which one's what. Tape this battery to the wire. Now you can do it with whatever tape you like, just straightforward masking tape. It doesn't make much difference. You're not going to see it. And the other thing that I have is some double-sided tape cut to the exact same size. So if I take the backing off of one side of this is probably the most difficult bit of the entire thing, getting one of the layers of backing off. Okay, so this goes onto here. We're going to turn this over. This one is going to go directly over that hole, and we are just going to put the other wire through here. And we're going to use, where this isn't fully cut out, we're just going to use that to make that fold back so we don't have a contact at the moment. All right. So we've got this in place, and all we need to do is decide where we want our lights to go. It's pretty straightforward, and you just want to put some tape around, get it to work. You can pinch up any extra wire that you've got in between your holes, because you might want to do this with a different design. You don't have to stick to the design that I'm doing. And then this one, I want to go around about there, I think. It's best if you don't have the light directly under the hole, because you tend to see it. You want the light to shine near it. So if I put it there, I can tape it down here. And it helps if your tape dispenser cuts your sticky tape easily. I think mine needs a new blade, which probably means I'm going to have to get another dispenser. Right. Well, I've got everything in place. I can tape pretty much everything down. Our battery sitting there, and we have the wire, and it's going to light up. Yay, great. Don't know how well you can see that because it's daylight, but yes, it is lighting up. But what we need to do is to put another of the sticky dots that I cut out. So you put this over here. You can actually tuck that little bit in there, doesn't matter. And then you need to take the other backing off, like that. And you want to curl your wire around so that it's going to be in the centre where the battery is, and it'll just sit there. Now, for the time being, this is a temporary measure. Just going to get a piece of plastic, because I don't want this to be on. Piece of plastic, and I'm going to sit it in there. I will make a nice tidy version of this for actual sort of completion purposes, but for the moment it's fine. So what will happen, that is going to sit on there. When someone gets the card, they will remove whatever you put there to stop it from being put in place, and that will stick down onto the battery and it will form a decent contact. If I do that, my lights are lighting up, which you can see from there. Okay, but I don't want it to stay there at the moment, so this piece of card will act as a barrier while I complete it. So that's not difficult, is it? It's just a case of making sure that your light string has been prepped for the battery and making sure that you don't have the little lights coming under there, because it just doesn't look quite as good. Right. So next, all we need to do is to put double-sided tape all around here and to stick this down. What I'm going to do is remove this here. I'm actually going to put just a normal piece of tape over it because I just want to keep it in place. But that other tape will really stop that wire from moving. Okay, that wire can't go anywhere. So now we have it sorted out and we just need to put this onto here. Now I don't recommend using glue because you've got electronics there and you don't want anything being damp at all, because that's going to cause a problem. So do it with double-sided tape. Now I don't know about you, but I find trying to line things up onto a card front when it's got double-sided tape on it is not the easiest of things to do. So what you do, I've discovered, is you put your double-sided tape on and you put a piece of vinyl backing over the majority of your card. You position this wherever it needs to be and make sure you put it the right way up. So for example, this is the same size as the card, so I would position it there, get it to stick there, and then remove this to stick the rest of the card down, and that works really quite well. So I've got my card front panel onto my card base now, and it works just fine, which is great. And I want to put something on top of here. I've trimmed down that piece of plastic, so it just says remove and pinch. I think most people, and you're going to be giving this to an adult, not a child, will understand exactly how that works. And so we want to do the decoration. I've cut out some pieces of holly. The finished card, I think you will find he looks quite cute. You can, if you want to, use a metallic pen and put some dots around. I think that's quite fun, but that's how it's put together. This one, I didn't actually have the little flap, it was a separate circle, but I decided that was in need of a bit of modification. So this is the best version, I think. Nice and easy to do. Even if you are not very savvy with electronics, you won't have a problem with doing that. And it does give a really nice effect. Now if I take this away, I might be able to switch it on for you. There we go. You can just about see it. If I close my blind down, make it a little darker in here. There we go. You can see that the lights are lighting up nicely. And I'm just going to pop that back because I do not want to waste the battery. So there we go. It's very, very flat. There isn't any great bulging there, even though you've got lights in it and a battery. So, you know, it's not going to cost you a fortune to post it either. It's a very simple method to get that really nice lighting up result. I'll see you again soon.